Have you ever found yourself standing in a room full of people, feeling entirely alone? The air around you buzzes with noise, words are exchanged back and forth, but nothing is actually being said. How was your weekend? Nice weather we're having. To the rest of the room it sounds like conversation, but to you, it just sounds like static, a low, relentless hum of empty words, filling the space where a real connection should be. You nod, you smile, you play the part expected of you. But behind your eyes, a quiet, heavy exhaustion is setting in. It takes a tremendous amount of energy to wear this mask, to maintain the social facade, and pretend that these shallow exchanges hold any meaning. You watch their mouths moving, you see the practiced smiles flashing, and you catch yourself wondering, is everyone else just pretending too, or is there something fundamentally different about how your mind operates? For you, small talk is not just boring. It feels physically draining. It feels like walking through a thick, invisible mud, where every polite nod costs you a piece of your internal clarity. You are forced to trade your deep, grounded presence for a fleeting moment of social convenience. You must shrink your vast internal world down into a tiny, acceptable box. And the moment you are finally alone, the moment the door clicks shut behind you, you don't just feel relieved, you feel as though you have been holding your breath underwater for hours. You have to sit in silence, just to pull yourself back to the surface of your own mind, to scrub away the residue of the interactions. Society tells you that this makes you antisocial. They tell you that you just need to try harder, to put yourself out there. But this exhaustion is not a flaw in your design. It is a warning, a clear, undeniable signal from your subconscious, telling you that you are starving in a room full of empty calories. To understand why this happens, we must look beneath the surface of the behavior. Society often mislabels this exhaustion as mere social anxiety or a lack of interpersonal skill. But the truth is far more fascinating. Psychology has a term for this specific type of mental architecture. It is called the need for cognition. It sounds clinical, but its meaning is deeply profound. It describes a mind that fundamentally craves effortful, meaningful thought, a mind that naturally seeks out the complex, the ambiguous, the hidden layers of reality. If you possess a high need for cognition, your brain is quite literally built to digest substance. It requires depth to feel engaged, to feel alive. But small talk is the exact opposite of substance. It is an unspoken social script designed to keep everyone perfectly safe and perfectly distant. How are you? I'm fine, thank you. It is a robotic exchange for a mind that craves deep exploration. Playing along with this script is pure psychological agony. Because here is the hidden truth about superficial chatter. It is not actually effortless. In fact, it requires a massive amount of hidden cognitive labor. Think about what your brain is forced to do when you engage in a shallow conversation. You are actively suppressing your genuine fluid internal state. You are constantly monitoring your facial expressions, forcing your eyes to remain bright and your posture to remain open. You are carefully measuring your responses, filtering out any thoughts that are too deep, too real, or too heavy for the room. You are essentially performing in a play, keeping up a facade that you do not believe in. Psychologists call this surface acting. And surface acting drains your cognitive reserves faster than almost any other mental task. You are burning tremendous amounts of mental fuel just to maintain a perfectly flat, uninteresting exterior. Your brain is working overtime to build a bridge to the other person, but the bridge leads nowhere. There is no emotional payoff. There is no transfer of real knowledge, no shared vulnerability, no sudden spark of mutual understanding. You spend all of your energy broadcasting a fake acceptable image and receive absolutely nothing of value in return. Your mind, which thrives on rich, complex data, is being force-fed dry, static noise. Is it any wonder you feel completely depleted? You are starving your mind of its natural oxygen. People who do not possess this intense need for cognition simply do not experience this drain. For them, small talk is a simple, comforting ritual. It is a perfectly adequate way to establish safety and predictability in a social setting. They are content floating comfortably on the surface. But you are built for the deep water. When you are forced to stay in the shallows for too long, your mind begins to suffocate. You are not broken for feeling this way. Your brain is simply rejecting a diet of empty social calories. It is demanding real sustenance. Let us look at this supposed weakness from an entirely different angle. What if your hatred for small talk is not a deficit at all? What if it is a finely tuned radar? Society tends to view the quiet observer as the awkward one in the room, the one who simply does not know how to play the game. But that is a profound misunderstanding of what is actually happening behind your eyes. You know exactly how to play the game. You have simply realized that the game is an illusion. Think of your mind as a highly sensitive radio receiver. It is constantly scanning the environment, reaching out into the invisible space between people, searching for something real, searching for a frequency that matches your own. In the vast, chaotic ocean of human interaction, there is noise and there is signal. Small talk is the noise. It is the static on the dial, loud, persistent, and entirely devoid of meaning. Most people are perfectly content listening to the static. It fills the uncomfortable void. It keeps the terrifying, heavy reality of human existence safely at bay. But your receiver is calibrated differently. You cannot ignore the static, and you refuse to settle for it. You are listening for the signal, a moment of raw honesty, a flash of genuine, unscripted emotion, a shared realization of the strange reality we all live in. When you physically recoil from a superficial conversation, it is an act of psychological preservation. You are refusing to let the static drown out your inner clarity. You are not rejecting the human being standing in front of you. You are rejecting the mask they are wearing. You are rejecting the invisible, suffocating wall that polite society places between two souls. This is why, when you finally find someone who operates on your wavelength, everything changes instantly. The exhaustion vanishes. The heavy, dragging weight of the social facade simply dissolves. Suddenly, you can talk for hours. You bypass the weather. You skip the pleasantries. And you dive straight into the deep waters. You talk about their fears, their hidden passions, their unspoken truths. You are no longer surface acting. You are exchanging real, vital energy. This sudden, powerful transformation is the ultimate proof that you are not antisocial. You are intensely, fiercely pro-social. But your definition of connection requires actual depth, not just physical proximity. You would rather sit in complete, absolute silence with someone than fill the air with nervous, empty words. Because to you, silence is not a void that needs to be frantically filled. Silence is a canvas. It is a grounded space where the truth is finally allowed to breathe. Small talk destroys that canvas, scribbling over it with panicked, anxious energy. Your aversion to this is your mind's way of protecting its most valuable resource, your attention and your presence. You are guarding the heavy iron door to your internal world, refusing entry to anything that does not carry the weight of authenticity. That is not a social failure. That is an extraordinary psychological boundary. There is a profound clash between the reality inside you and the illusion around you. Your internal world is not a quiet place. It is a vast, fluid landscape, teeming with complex thoughts, unanswered questions, and heavy observations. It is dynamic, it is alive, but the social script of small talk is entirely static. It is a rigid, two-dimensional structure built by society to keep everyone comfortably numb. When you are forced into this script, you are asked to do the impossible. You are asked to take the deep, swirling ocean of your mind and force it through a tiny, superficial filter, to flatten your complex reality into a socially acceptable soundbite. I'm doing well, thank you. It is a lie, not because you are necessarily doing poorly, but because the truth of human experience is always so much heavier than that. Every time you engage in this flattening process, you surrender a piece of your autonomy. You trade your authentic presence. To maintain a collective illusion, you become a participant in a shared hallucination, where everyone pretends to be a simple, predictable character in a very boring play. But your refusal to participate is not stubbornness. It is a quiet, fierce rebellion. By stepping back from the chatter, by allowing an awkward silence to stretch out between you and a stranger, you are reclaiming your psychological sovereignty. You are declaring that your internal truth is more valuable than their temporary comfort. You refuse to betray your own depth just to make the room feel a little less heavy. This is the ultimate defense of your own consciousness. You would rather stand on the outside of the illusion fully grounded in your own reality than lose yourself entirely inside the comfortable, crowded facade. So, the next time the conversation dries up, do not panic. Do not rush to fill the quiet with empty, nervous words. Silence is not an awkward void that you are somehow responsible for fixing. It is a profound, grounded presence. It is the heavy, authentic space where real life actually happens. When the superficial chatter finally fades away, you are allowed to just be. You do not owe the world a performance. You do not owe anyone a shallow version of yourself, just to make them feel comfortable in their own skin. Protect your clarity. Guard your internal world with the fierce autonomy it deserves. Let the static of society wash over you without ever letting it inside. Master the art of holding space and wait patiently for the true signal. Because when someone finally speaks to you from a place of depth and truth, you will be ready to listen. You will be ready to connect. If this silence speaks to you, tell me your story in the comments. You are not alone.